This city is very close to my heart. My great uncle came to the Albert Docks over 70 years ago from Kashmir, the reason I'm standing here today.
Instead of this denigration of people trying to survive, do two things. One is treat them like human beings with humanity. And secondly, look at the causes of war. The wars we have been involved in Afghanistan, in Iraq, in Syria, in Libya, and so the list goes on and on.
Now, I know that the past few weeks, many of you have felt frustrated and disappointed about the launch process. I felt that too. So let me be absolutely clear. My motivation has always been to strengthen our collective project to build a genuinely democratic socialist party worthy of the struggles that have come before us to fight for maximum member democracy. It has been regrettable, and for my part, I want to say I'm truly sorry. You're here because, like me, you believe that we can build a mass party of the left. And as the great Bill Shankly said, the socialism I believe in is everyone working for the same goal and everybody having a share in the rewards. That is the spirit we must revive, not just on the football pitch, but in every workplace, in every community, and in every street. Liverpool understands this better than anywhere. This is the city that stood up to Margaret Thatcher. This is the city... This is the city that faced down fascists when they marched here. This is a city that knows solidarity isn't just a slogan, it is a way of life. When others turned their backs, Liverpool stood up for justice, and we will always remember the 97, and we thank the Hillsborough families. We thank the Hillsborough families for their campaign for truth and justice. We salute your courage, and we will always stand with you. And today, in the face of war, racism, and economic cruelty, it is Liverpool's defiance that we must channel again, because millions of people are fed up. In fact, they should be. In fact, they should be fucking furious. Furious! Furious with life getting harder and harder, with the cost of living soaring while wages stagnate. Furious with being ripped off at every turn by privatized water companies, profiteering energy firms, bus and train operators hiking up fares, and landlords and mortgage lenders squeezing us dry. Furious of waiting weeks for a GP appointment and languishing months for a hospital waiting list. Furious of boarded up high streets, shuttered libraries and community centres, even public toilets locked up. Our shared spaces have been left to rot because councils simply can't afford to keep them alive. Furious of paying more and more while getting less and less, of being made to shoulder the burden of a crisis we did not cause, and furious of being told that there is no alternative to a system that simply doesn't work. Millions across the country are crying out for real change. When Jeremy was elected Labour leader, it gave us all hope. Hope that politics could be about honesty and decency again, about peace, solidarity, and working class power. And that's why the establishment waged out an all-out war against the left and tried to drive us out of public life. Many have now lost faith that democracy can deliver for them. They see politicians of all stripes as self-serving frauds, more interested in freebies like Sabrina Carpenter tickets or getting dressed by their rich mates. For reference, I paid for my own suit. It's from H&M, not Lord Wahid Ali.
Founding a new party is not without its complications, if I may just reveal that in the privacy of St George's Hall. And there are an awful lot of things you have to think about in doing it. And the first conference will not be the last conference. It won't be the last word on everything. It will be a developing process.
So trust in our political system is broken, and some in our communities have turned to the far right, not because they are all hardened fascists, but because there is a vacuum in our politics. For some, reform looks like the only alternative. But the truth is, reform is just another wing of the establishment, funded by billionaires and aristocrats, fronted by a millionaire stockbroker and ex-public schoolboy, Nigel Farage. It peddles racism to distract us from its real agenda. More privatization, more deregulation, more handouts for the super rich, more cuts for everyone else. This is who they are.
We recognise that people are going to be coming into a political organisation or political movement often for the first time in their lives. Some will have been in the Labour Party, some will have been in other parties, some will have been campaigners for different causes, but quite a lot will have never had anything to do with anything before. They've got to all be equally welcome within any organisation we set up. We don't want that sort of horror story of new members turning up at Labour Party branch meetings, everybody's staring at them saying, there's a new member over there. Who brought them in? Who let them in? Who let them in? It's got to be open and inclusive, and that means that whoever is organising local meetings, make sure you give everybody a chance to say something and everybody a chance to be heard. That's actually quite important. Now, being responsive to membership is absolutely crucial in what goes on, but it's also crucial, and this leads on to the other questions about how you organise talent within the community, it's how our local branches operate. We could easily become an inward-looking party with an inward-looking bureaucracy, and we spend a lot of time discussing what we think of each other or what ought to be or what could be. No, the community out there needs something a bit different. They need something that is going to challenge child poverty, homelessness, excessive rents, and all the other issues that are faced within our society. So my suggestion would be that every single local branch must guarantee that at least once a month they have an open public event and discussion within their community on what they're doing, what the campaigns are, and what the issues are taking forward. So we're there as part and parcel of the community.
I think a community organising model is incredibly important, and I was proud to work as a Labour Party community organiser in the unit that Jeremy created when he was leader of the party, because that understood that power lies in our communities and that work has to happen outside of an election cycle, and if that work isn't happening, you become irrelevant, and that means supporting tenants' unions, it means supporting parents organising to make sure kids are fed in the summer holidays. It's the campaigns for affordable buses in our cities. That has to be the foundation of this political project, and that has to feed into political decision making. Ultimately, what we want to build is a mass movement party, and to answer the questions around how do we ensure that new talent from across our movement is harnessed, we need to have youth spaces, a youth section, similar to what I came through myself, through the student movement, and through obviously the Labour Party, but that can't just be a tokenistic photo op. We just don't want young people there to tell us what TikTok videos to create and what and make photos look more diverse. How will candidates be selected to represent all of our communities? I said before, mandatory reselection is important. You cannot have a job for life. You are in Parliament because members have put you there.
The selection of candidates, that I think has to be done as openly and democratically as possible, and I agree with Zara, there has to be a mandatory reselection process. Every council term, parliamentary term, whatever it happens to be. But it also has to be that they have the support of the community in some way. I'm not necessarily advocating primaries because they're very complicated to organise and incredibly expensive, but some kind of interface with the local community where people who support the party in a particular area can all vote on what their perceptions of each candidate are, and each candidate obviously must have elected guarantee to do full reporting back. We've got within the thousands of people that are supporting what we're trying to do, people of enormous knowledge and ability. Let's harness that knowledge and harness that ability, maybe set up sort of policy commission of people that work in the health service, people that are fascinated by education, those that want to do something about special needs education, all those kind of things. Give voice to the talent that we've got within our communities. We don't have to buy it in from universities. We've got it amongst us all within our communities, and let's make sure we use that.
And the ground for this was laid by decades of politics as usual, with neoliberalism, just different colour rosettes. We're told that there's no money for housing, there's no money for free school meals, there's no money for the NHS. Yet, somehow, there's always money for war, always money for corporate bailouts, and always money to give tax breaks to the super rich. Why is that? Why is there always money for war and never for the poor? We're not here for tweaks, we're not here for lowering a few bills here and there and the sprinkling of a wealth tax. We are here for a fundamental transformation of society, the means of production controlled by workers.
We want to make sure the best, most radical voices are there in council chambers, in Parliament and elsewhere, and that means cooperation with other people in order to achieve it, and that I'm sure we can do.
I think the executive committee of the party should be elected through one member, one vote. I don't think there should be any seats reserved for MPs, including myself, and I think that would ensure that members control the party. I think that the fact that we have sortition for conference, I know, has led to a lot of people asking questions. I think we should have a version of sortition that is more democratic and therefore allows people to have speaking rights, even if they don't have voting rights, so things don't go through just by acclaim.
Your party, big, local, community-based, we can be the ones, in reality, driving an environmental agenda in every town, every city and every village in this country. We will be the creative heart of what happens within our communities. That's why we want this vast new party, yourparty.uk, to be active everywhere in the country, whatever the current political complexion of those communities and those societies. I have a local relationship with the Green Party. Sadly, it didn't stop them from still running a candidate in the general election, but the candidate was wonderful, and she told everybody to vote for me, which was very kind of her. But it, frankly, would have been better if the Green Party didn't have this rather odd rule that they must contest every single parliamentary constituency in the whole country. And I'm so sure Zara's done the same. I've raised that with Zach.
We will work with the Green Party and any other party who wants to defeat fascism and stop Nigel Farage from getting into Downing Street. We also have to understand our differences. Zach Polanski, the leader of the Green Party, said that he absolutely would continue diplomatic relations with Israel. I absolutely disagree. It's a genocidal apartheid state. Policy passed at conference because conference has to be sovereign as a democratic decision-making body. Policy that is passed has to be binding, and MPs, councillors have to follow that policy. Otherwise, what is the point?
Why are we doing this? To mobilise people on a radical alternative agenda. Mobilise people in order to bring about political change within our society. We can do that.
And if anyone wants to look up the Green Party online on their website, you will see that they believe NATO has an important role in maintaining security for member states. I think NATO is an imperialist war machine and we should withdraw immediately.
On the second point, the stance on Ukraine, well, it says, what is the party's stance on Ukraine? Well, at the moment, obviously, the party hasn't discussed it, and so therefore there isn't a party stance on it. My stance on Ukraine is, one is, I hate the war. One is, I hate the First World War nature of the war, where conscripted soldiers from Ukraine are killing conscripted soldiers from Russia, and vice versa. If the two countries can come together to discuss grain shipments and sales, can come together for temporary ceasefires and prisoner exchanges, for goodness sake, come together to get a ceasefire, stop the killing, and come to some arrangement for the future which involves both NATO pulling back and Russia pulling back, and some kind of independent monitoring group being in there to monitor the ceasefire that's going on. We cannot go on just observing this war, and the only people that are doing well out of it are the arms industries of the West and of Russia and of other countries around the world. That is just to, in case there's anybody listening who wants a specific, my view on this, I do not support what Russia has done in the invasion of Ukraine. It is obviously wrong, and I've done my best throughout all this time to keep in touch with Boris Kargalitsky and others who are very brave peace activists in Russia. They're our friends, they're our comrades, just like peace activists are all over the world, and we should be keeping that support for them.
On Ukraine, I was really proud to attend an anti-war meeting in Paris at the weekend, meeting comrades from Code Pink, the Democratic Socialists of America, the Belgian Workers' Party, comrades in Italy that have been involved in the general strike, where dockers and workers and students have brought the country to a halt for Palestine to stop the flow of arms. And I also met incredibly powerful people from Ukraine and Russia who want the war to end, for there to be no more bloodshed, and who are crying out for peace. That's what needs to happen. We need to have a global anti-war movement that pursues peace, and ultimately, you know, Vladimir Putin is a gangster, criminal autocrat, and Zelensky is also no friend of the working class. We are here to fight for welfare, not warfare. We are here to fight for wages, not weapons, and we want war to end.
If we as a country spend 13 billion a year more on armaments and a new generation of nuclear weapons and a whole new security idea that we have a global reach as a relatively small country on the global stage, what's going to happen? What's going to happen to local government spending? What's going to happen to housing? What's going to happen to social services? What's going to happen to education? You know, I know. Every single one of those services will face cuts in order to spend more money on weapons and more money on going to war. Can't we have a government that's dedicated to try and bringing about peace around the world by looking at the causes of war rather than going to war all the time? On the abolition of free ports and special economic zones, absolutely, because if the idea of a free port is what? Is it a place that's free of regulation, free of health and safety regulation, free of taxation, free of conditions, free of employment protection legislation and all the rest of it? I think I know what the agenda behind free ports is. I want to see a protected, regulated, properly paid, properly respected workforce wherever they happen to be, and that includes in places that they're trying to set up as free ports. So let's not support them.
Housing. Insecure work, wages that don't cover the bills, and the NHS on its knees. People don't need more culture wars, they need hope, they need material improvements to their lives. That is what we are fighting for. And another very simple idea, the working class controlling the wealth that they produce. It's called socialism. So I say, let's embrace caste war because it's about time we won. Even today, despite a ceasefire being announced, we know Israel's bombs are still falling on Gaza. So peace means more than just a ceasefire. It means freedom from military occupation and apartheid. It means freedom for Palestinians to decide their own future, not war criminals like Tony Blair.
But the Trump plan, it ain't a plan for peace, that's for sure. It's 20 points, and I'm not totally convinced that the esteemed President of the United States read beyond point 10, actually. But, you know, his eyes may have wandered down the page to 17 or 18, who knows. What it means is, as of now, even if the preliminary part of the agreement is adhered to, Israel still controls 55% of the Gaza Strip, which is a tiny piece of land where 2 million people were trying to survive, where 60,000 known deaths have occurred and many more have occurred. We've got to go a lot further.
Blood is on their hands, and we will not rest until Keir Starmer, David Lammy and the rest are in the dock at The Hague, held to account.
And it's not up to Donald Trump and others to sit around in the White House and decide what the future of Palestine is. It's a bit like the Treaty of Versailles, where they all sat round and drew lines on the maps and decided which European power was going to have which part of the Middle East. There were no Palestinians around the table, just like in the Congress of Berlin in 1884, which divided up Africa. There was not one African voice or presence around that table. So this is kind of 18th, 19th century colonialism that we see in operation.
We cannot simply move on from what has happened. We must sever every diplomatic tie and relation with the apartheid, genocidal state of Israel. That means every ambassador expelled. That means every embassy shut down.
Gaza are hoping, desperately hoping, and I've just had messages from people there, desperately hoping that there's going to be some kind of ceasefire, and at least that will mean the killing will temporarily stop. But Zara is quite right what she said, that the British sale of arms to Israel, the component parts for the F-35 jets, the constant use of RAF Akrotiri and RAF Dekalia to deliver weapons to Israel, the sharing of security information with Israel, the training of Israeli forces in Britain have all contributed to the acts of genocide. I'm just horrified beyond belief at the killing of children who are dying without antiseptic, anesthetic, in desperate pain. Why? Because Israel wants to destroy the lives of Palestinian people. And within 5-10 kilometers of where they're dying, there's food, there's water, there's medicine, there's electricity, there's everything a child needs. What are the historians of the next century going to say about the politicians of this century that allowed genocide to go on live television? Nobody can say they didn't know what was happening.
So we will keep marching, we will keep boycotting, divesting and speaking until Palestine is free and until every single person who enabled this genocide is held accountable for their crimes, because a day of reckoning will come for those who have enabled genocide.
Try and get to the demonstration in London on Saturday the 11th. We want to make it the biggest ever march for Palestine this country has ever seen. And I will certainly be there. Do we believe in the independence of Palestine? Do we believe in their rights? Do we believe in their participation? Or is it going to be once more just a place under occupation? And let's just accept that there has to be human rights at the very heart of everything that we do, and we will not allow the Tories or anybody else to take us away from the European Convention on Human Rights or out of the European Court of Human Rights. They are not foreign courts. They are part and parcel of UK law.
You fight by organising, by uniting working class people around a positive vision, and by building a movement that is broad and rooted in solidarity.
I say, as a community, as a nation, we should be paying for social care, not thrust a bill of it on the people that can least afford it. And that, to me, could be, again, a major campaigning point that we will want to do as a party. Now, I, like all of you, love the idea that we have free education within our society, of course. It's crucial, it's vital, it's essential in every way. But it's being eaten away at both ends of the scale. Preschool education is largely not free. Many have to pay for nurseries, many have to pay for childminding and all the other issues that go with it. Let's develop and encourage the creativity and the ability of our students, not just in maths and science, but in music, in art, in culture, in dance and theatre as well.
We genuinely want to empower young people because they have ideas around policy, around campaigns, around strategy, and essentially in left-wing language, we want to create cadre so the rest of us are replaceable, because that's what we're here to do, bring more people in and create a platform for the social power that exists in our communities.
And so that's why I was very keen in both our manifestos to put forward the concept of a national education service which would give democratic control over education, reinstate the power of local education authorities, and take away the power of the market in the academies, the power of the market in the colleges, and the power of the market to so destroy the virtues of universities by turning them into playthings of the arms trade when they should be there investigating and investing in more productive things. So, as one who's got a great deal of experience of dealing with the media in this country, and what a wonderful, wonderful media industry we have in this country, it's just sometimes they don't always look for the right story. And I'm sure it's just a lack of diligence in some way. But it always seems to me slightly surprising that every single utterance, every single movement, every single cough taken by Nigel Farage requires to be reported in real time on every one of our live television broadcasts. The wall-to-wall coverage of the negativity of Reform UK, the sheer stupidity of some of the things they say, the deep ignorance that they demonstrate towards so many communities is never, ever challenged by our media. But anyone on the left, oh God, it's very different then, isn't it? Always attacking trade union leaders, always attacking politicians of the left, always attacking those on strike without ever giving the other side of the story. So what I want to see is a more democratic media, a more accessible media, and a right of reply in every one of our media platforms when attacks are made on individuals. We can bring unity to communities. We can make our party part and parcel of the very fabric of every community in the country. Because when you fight to win a nursery, when you fight to save a hospital, when you fight to close a road from dangerous through traffic, all those kind of things, when you fight and win, it might be a small local victory, but you feel so big and so good at the end of it. You go on to victories after victories, and that's what we're trying to do. Mobilize people to end poverty, injustice and inequality within our society. Create a society not based on misery and racism, which is what's offered by Nigel Farage, but a community based on the lived experience of all of us, the strength that we all bring together to achieve that better, cleaner, fairer, greener world, a real socialist world. We have unity of ideas, unity of action, and above all, that will create unity of hope for the people of this country. Thank you very much.